Folks, legal precedent has just been set. In arguably the most important high-profile case of my generation, the verdict was not guilty, cementing your sacred right to defend your body from vicious assailants who plan to do you harm. And to celebrate that day as well as support this YouTube channel and all the coverage we do on these important issues, I present the Not Guilty merch set. It's a great way to support the channel. Links in the description. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. What is wrong with the NBA and why do they keep doing this? I mean, you might have thought after last year that they've learned their lesson, after all the nonsense and all of the bad press that LeBron James has brought them, after the disaster that was the Milwaukee Bucks boycotting the playoffs. I mean, completely embarrassing, that being my favorite team, refusing to play in the playoffs for a criminal who assaulted his wife, was allegedly trying to kidnap his children when he did not have custody of them, tried to drive away, tried to grab a knife when police officers were telling him to stop. You would think that after all the facts come out, after ratings dropped, and with the NBA's decision to stop with political messaging on the court, you thought that it might be over. You thought that you'd be able to watch your favorite sports again without tragically misinformed political takes and activism and propaganda being shoved down your throat. Well, you thought wrong. Or I guess I thought wrong. I'm probably the only naive kid who thought maybe we were done. Of course not, we're not. We're just getting started. And what I'm about to show you guys is going to be truly frustrating, as more misinformation and more absolutely ignorant political takes are pushed out by the NBA, players associations, and players themselves. As well as, of course, at the top of the list, the worst offender, woke ESPN, that these days is more of an outlet pushing for cultural Marxism and social justice than an actual sports network. Let me show you guys what's going on, but before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so I log on Twitter the other day and I noticed this. The NBA on Twitter tweets, statement from National Basketball Social Justice Coalition Executive Director James Cotigan on the verdict in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, first off, why do we need a statement from the National Basketball Social Justice Coalition? What do people who specialize in sports and athletic development, and of course entertainment above all, people who spend their time focused on a sport, why would anybody require a political statement or news updates from the NBA? Why is this necessary? It's absolutely not. And obviously, above all, it's just stupid. The National Basketball Social Justice Coalition, our thoughts are with the families of those whose lives were taken in this tragedy, essentially already taking a side, claiming their thoughts and their prayers are with the career criminals and the literal PEDO in Joseph Rosenbaum, instead of the kid who was attacked and defended himself. The right to peacefully protest is a bedrock of our democracy, and the National Basketball Social Justice Coalition remains committed to preserving that right for all. The right to peacefully protest, I totally agree, but National Basketball Social Justice Coalition, once again, you guys have absolutely no freaking idea what you're talking about. Peaceful protest, you say? Doesn't exactly seem peaceful to me. And a bunch of adult criminals savagely attacking a little kid who was there trying to put out fires and rendering medical aid doesn't exactly seem like peaceful protesting to me. Then of course, they finish off with, any forms of vigilantism in our society are unacceptable. Signed, James Cotigan, Executive Director. I mean, it's just wrong. They have all of the facts wrong, yet they continue to get involved in this political game. They continue to perpetuate straight up liberal propaganda, straight up lies, continue to further divide society, yet they pretend as if they're part of some very impressive and important movement to fight for justice, when it seems as though the only outcome that they would have been willing to accept would rather be a miscarriage of justice. They are absolutely uninformed and have no place. I mean, they have the right, if they want to, they can, but they have no place entering this discussion without understanding the basic facts. Speaking of that exact notion, ESPN chimed in. This Twitter user right over here links the clip and writes, I lost brain cells watching these three twits faux outrage about the Rittenhouse decision. ESPN is woke BS, and I'd say that's a little bit of an understatement. Take a look at this.
I think that the scariest part about this, so many people talk about not being surprised. And if you live in America, if you know the history of America, you're not surprised. I think the scariest part about this is that By saying that he is not guilty, they are saying that everything he did was lawful. And that's the part that worries me. Like they were trying to not paint him. He was a kid that took a gun across state lines and went and did what he did. And they are saying that that is lawful. So to me, that just makes it, even that more concerning that these acts are being proven that, like, hey, if this is what you want to do and you want to go into a crowd and you want to do this, then, a judge and a jury can find you not guilty. And I think that just makes the tension in these situations even worse.
Perk.
What we have been going through, it's just mind-boggling to me, and it's very disturbing that, it's not just a gun, right? We're talking about an AK, something that is very visible, that, you have intents or whatever the case may be.
I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to borrow it from MacArthur Fellow Jacqueline Woodson. And she said, "I'm heartbroken, but I'm not stunned. I'm angry, not irrational. I'm done, but not stopping." And that, to me, encapsulates so very well what so many people are feeling today. So take care of those around you. Check in and ask how folks are doing. This is something that is a culmination of so many things, especially in Black America. And there's not really much more that can be said. There's nothing that can be said that makes us any better.
Folks, everything was wrong. Literally, once again, everything was wrong. Why are you talking about this case if you haven't even watched the video? And I mean, instantly, ESPN's Richard Jefferson apologizes for false Rittenhouse information. With this tweet right over here, I want to address something. I made a mistake during a very emotional time. I said something that was false. I have covered very emotional moments in my career, from the death of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd to the tragic death of Kobe and Gigi and the families in the crash. I read something that was false. He did not bring a gun across state lines, and I apologize for this, and I will be better. I'm a man and will not hide. I have spoken thousands of hours on TV, and crucial mistakes are rarely made, but when they are, they should be addressed. But it's once again that I ask myself, okay, you made a mistake, and you even proved the point that I've been making on this YouTube channel for how long, that you read something that was false. When are people going to realize that most of the information that they have on these cases is false because they are reading false sources? They are reading literal fake news. It's one thing to apologize, it's another to be severely misinformed, absolutely ignorant on the issues, to be reading propaganda and lies, and to then spread it and promote it as gospel, and not have a moment of introspection and think, whoa, maybe, just maybe, the media just might be manipulating me, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you guys remember this tweet from the other day that we covered, where Russ McLaughlin writes, "A murderer who will now parlay his fame into a career as a right-wing rock star. It only cost him 3 black lives." Literally all the individuals were white. Of course, we've covered that. Well, he then deleted the tweet and wrote, "Yep, I removed a factually inaccurate tweet. Mea culpa." Look at the first reply. Jim Gibney writes, "Honest question. Now that you realize you lacked even the most basic understanding of the facts of this case, do you step back and possibly think the sources you use for information are lying/manipulating you and reflect why you go along with it? Are we going to get to a reckoning moment in society where people are going to realize that they are being played for fools and that Kyle Rittenhouse was not your enemy? Kyle Rittenhouse was there actually supporting the protests and trying to make sure things were peaceful, was trying to defend a business, stop fires, help people who were injured? Are you going to start realizing that I'm not your enemy? Your neighbor with an American flag in a truck isn't a symbol of white supremacy, but rather a symbol of freedom? Isn't a symbol of white supremacy and oppression, but rather a symbol of freedom? And your American brother or sister, are you going to realize maybe the enemy is the media industrial complex that continues to manipulate and repeatedly lie in order to pit people against each other? Chris Middleton had this response right over here, once again from the Bucks. "We talked about the verdict a little bit as a team. Speaking for myself, it was definitely disappointing, but at the same time, it really wasn't surprising about the verdict. I watched the trial a little bit and was able to keep up with it, but I think it's something that we've all seen over and over again, essentially admitting that he only kept up with it a little bit, didn't actually follow the facts of the case. I mean, if you did and you're being honest, there's absolutely no way you could come to this conclusion that it was definitely disappointing. Why would you want to throw a young person's life away? A person who you can argue probably shouldn't have been there, but does that justify being attacked? Does that justify life in prison after being savagely attacked by an angry mob of adult criminals? I don't think these athletes are bad people. I think they're trying to do the right thing. But this whole narrative that's been creating of a platform, and that everybody with a platform somehow has to get involved, even when they don't even have the time to be well read, or aren't even necessarily passionate about these topics to really understand what they're talking about. When Laura Ingraham said, "Just shut up and dribble," it caused outrage and people said there were undertones of racism, etc. But at the end of the day, none of that was true. What it really was, what Laura Ingraham was doing, was giving some seriously wise advice. Because we are seeing uninformed athletes being used as useful idiots to peddle propaganda. We are seeing the platform not being used for good, but rather being used for evil. And it's time to take a step back and think a little bit. Just please think. Because it's not a coincidence that you're wrong all the time. It's by design. You are being manipulated. I mean, all we need is just a little bit of introspection and critical thought, basic research, instead of taking things at face value and constantly being manipulated by the lying, corrupt media. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. I gotta get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.